What's up, Michelle Therese here, and as part of my ongoing Inspirational People series, I interviewed Arielle London, who is an extremely talented, inspiring individual. She is a rapper, she's a singer, she's an author, she's a mental health campaigner, she's an abuse survivor. She studied, a lot, and she's an artist as well as so many other things. We had a long conversation about mental health, about the abusive systems in Canada and also the UK. We talked about overcoming abuse and using our own experiences to inspire others. And you know, Arielle's got new music coming out soon. I've put all the links in the description as well to a book as well and her YouTube channel. Check that out. And also, for me, if you can help me hit 1,000 subscribers on here, I've said to people that I will make all of my poetry ebooks just £1 for a week, so everyone can afford them. And like I said, hit that 1k, get all my poetry books for £1. I upload a lot of these, motivational videos, 2 or 3 times a week, as well as honest, conversations about mental health and book reviews and also my own writing. So, yeah, anyway, I'll get on to the interview. The video for me is a little bit blurry. I'm sorry about that. My phone was breaking. I've got a new one now. I just focus on Arielle, and yeah, it was an absolutely amazing chat. And we're going to do it again very soon. Apologies for the blurry video for me.
Hi, Michelle.
Hiya. Can you actually see me?
I can see you, but it's a bit fuzzy. It looks like you have a dream filter on.
All right.
So if you,
No,
if,
it's
if you want to
yeah.
keep it like that, am I clear?
Yeah, you're crystal clear, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, you're the focus anyway, but
Oh my God. It's true, it's true.
yeah.
Hold on, I'm just gonna take a little sip of my tea.
No, but honestly, me and technology are rubbish. I've only had this phone 6 months, yeah, and I've dropped it. It's been run over by a taxi. It's been in the bath. Like,
Oh my
seriously.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, it's fine with me. I can hear you perfectly clearly. It's just the dream filter's on. So long as you're cool with that, I'm cool with that.
Because the other way,
It's clear.
that's what I'm saying, but I don't have
Now
a
we
stand. So can you guide me, please?
Yes, I see books. I'm seeing lots of books.
Tell me when it's a good angle. I don't have a fucking stand. I knew I should have bought one, but um,
Okay. I see books. I see you. I saw your arm, part of your arm. There we go. That's perfect. There.
is that better now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Right.
Hey
Right.
there.
Good.
I'm so happy we
Hello.
I'm so happy we were able to do this.
Yes. Same.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I connected with you because I watched your documentary and I just related to everything. Everything about it, really. The diagnosis is part, the mistreatment by the police, the
Yeah.
institutionalization, just everything. And it's a very well thought out documentary, and I do believe it really does need to be promoted more.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I put a lot of work into it. I remember when I started the documentary, I think it's 2018, 2019. That's when I officially started kind of recording myself speaking
Hmm.
out loud. And it was just kind of this process to see what kind of came out because I knew that there was so much inside of me. And I know how powerful the spoken word is. And while I'm a writer and I get acknowledged a lot more for my writing,
Hmm.
I really do love public speaking. And one of the things that I mentioned, was robbed from me during the whole mental health ordeal was my voice. And, I'm
Yeah.
a singer, I'm a rapper, and,
Painter.
what? Painter, yes, I
You
love
do
painting.
everything. You do
Yeah,
everything.
everything that I love, I try and do. So yeah, you know, when my voice was taken from me, I literally couldn't speak. Like it was as though my mouth was almost sewn shut, like in the Matrix. And I have a picture actually. I didn't put it in the documentary because it's just a bit too hard for me.
Mm.
But I'm looking in the mirror and it's like I didn't take many pictures of myself around that time when I physically could not talk. And that was around
Mm.
like 2013. And it, you can tell that my mouth, like even if I wanted to, my mouth, it's not opening. You know, you can tell it's like pursed in the video, in the photograph. So yeah, when I started the documentary, my hope was to just really make it so that, because in order to destigmatize mental health, you need to be a really good advocate, and to be a good advocate you need to be able to speak about it liberally, speak about your own issues liberally. And I knew that practice makes perfect, so I just kind of, you know, I figured, okay, I'll just start the footage, see where it goes. And then I was looking over the footage and I was like, oh my God, the name came to me, hashtag mental health, because I was like, I wanted to bring
Mm.
attention to the fact that, you know, it's so much more than a hashtag.
I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna turn it round. Oh,
Okay,
so I can actually. It feels more organic like this.
cool.
Um, it's. I mean, for me, I mean, you know, the whole reclaim voice and stuff. I mean, you spoke about. I've written notes. I came prepared. You said you're passionate about talking out about the pain. Um, because I speak because I'm not the only one. I speak because I know it can help other people. And it's yeah. So do you want to, basically tell everyone just everything really about your story?
Sure. Well, my mental health journey, I suppose, like, or my personal, like, just my life story, or like related to the pain, or uh,
Yeah, just, you don't have to go into explicit details, but,
okay. Um,
yeah.
so basically, to make a long story short, Arielle before 2012 was very different than Arielle post 2012. Um,
Yeah.
in 2012, like basically up until, so I was 25 in 2012. That's when I turned 25. And up until that point, I was very academic. I was very, I was pursuing, I originally, when I was a kid, I wanted to become a doctor. So I was pursuing that path, a very kind of like rigid path. Not that doctors are rigid, but it's a very straight and narrow, clear cut path.
Hmm.
And then I realized when I was studying for the entrance exam that I actually didn't want to go into sciences. I wanted to go into human rights. I didn't know how,
Yep.
but I knew that.
And you've got
Yeah,
you've
so I
got a
knew.
master's in that. Yep.
Yeah, so I knew that. Well, eventually, I figured that path out, right? But
Hmm.
at the beginning, I was like, I don't know. I just want to do something with human rights. I didn't necessarily want to be a lawyer, but I definitely wanted to do something with human rights, which is very different than being a doctor. So
Yeah.
with our experience, at least, definitely for sure, they clash. That human rights and mental health definitely clash for sure. So, anyways, I I switched paths. I studied arts at the Faculty of Arts. I did a political science degree at McGill. And then I moved
Hmm.
to London after that. I did that master's in human rights, which I loved. I adored. I love the UK. Hello, everyone who's from the UK. You're my heart. And I actually lived in Leeds for a semester, which we've
Yep.
spoken about. I studied abroad there for a semester during my undergrad. I absolutely loved it. And
You was in you was in my area as well in LS6,
yeah,
Headingley.
yeah, Headingley. Oh my God, the uni days. Oh, certain songs can bring me back there. But anyways, yeah, so I went, so I did the master's in human rights, and then I came back to Canada after, and that's when
Hmm.
everything changed. That's when everything shifted. So I came back because I had a temporary job opportunity that allowed me to save up enough money to write my first book. And that's what I
Hmm.
did. I got an apartment in an artsy neighborhood in Montreal, and I started writing. And in the process of focusing on writing, I had this entire spiritual awakening. I had this entire artistic awakening, and I just transformed into an artist. Like, I literally had been released from academia. You know, I was only focusing on my creative, you know, getting my creative juices flowing, and all of a sudden I'm painting, all of a sudden I'm singing, all of a sudden, and then Trayvon Martin was killed. And when
Mm.
Trayvon Martin was killed, I'm a children's rights activist, and all I could see was that a child had lost his life because he was going to get Skittles and he had a hood up, and some racist with the stand your ground laws in Florida could get away with
Mm.
murdering him on the grounds of being suspicious. So he killed him. And that was actually, I was so beside myself, like, and I just could see things so crystal clearly in that moment.
Mhm.
And I wrote my first song, and my first song ended up being a rap. And
Yeah.
I sang, but I didn't, I rapped always along to lyrics, but I never just rapped. I had practiced, I had tried freestyling once or twice before, but I had never fully indulged in rapping or even written a song on my own like that before. So, um, anyways, that kind of, when I realized how much I enjoyed that and how therapeutic that was, I just kept on doing it. So I would rap, I would sing, I would paint, I would write, and that was my life. And I published an article in the Montreal Gazette about the right to peaceful protest, and I
Mhm.
got some death threats in response to that. A lot of very strange things started happening around my home, and kind of the walls started closing in on me. And I have PTSD as well. I had been diagnosed
Yep.
with PTSD in I was
Yep.
diagnosed with it in the summer of 2010. Um, but I didn't really fully know what that meant. I now know what that means, but um, I didn't understand the full repercussion, like the consequences of that, what that would mean for me long term. So I was also going through some stuff, and I had also been in a relationship with a man who, at the very beginning of our relationship, he raped me. And the shock of the rape itself is the only explanation that I can give, and the only thing that research and therapists have explained to me is normal. Because of the shock of the rape, I actually deleted it from my brain. Like, when I left his
Yeah.
apartment, it just, in my
Mm.
head, it was like, oh, we had sex. It wasn't, he raped me. That's why we had sex. Um, so yeah,
Which
so
is a
they,
normal, which is a normal response. That
but
is a
it's a,
trauma response.
yeah, but it doesn't feel normal, you know, especially when you remember 3 years later and you're like, what? You know, because I continued to see him. And I
Mm.
didn't know that whole time that I had been a victim of his, you know, but I was. And anyways, we saw each other for about a year and a half. So that played very largely on my brain. It played very largely with my concept of intimacy. And it
Mhm.
definitely did not do good things for my mental health. I am the first to readily admit that. I mean, I was already around the time when he raped me. I received my diagnosis for PTSD because I had been assaulted by a man in a club, sexually assaulted by a man in a club in about 8 months prior. So, anyways, make a long story short, or to try and make a long story short, on in 2012 on May 15th, I I had been having, you know, I had been expressing myself online. I had been sharing a lot of content, a lot of things that people did not, it was art pieces in my, like, not in my opinion, that's what I was doing. And, you know, when people see art, they can misinterpret it. And that's exactly what did happen. Some
Mm.
people thought that my art was intended for their eyes, but it wasn't. It had nothing to do with them. So they interpreted my art in a certain way. And also, as a side note, there had been a disagreement between me and some people, a particular person, and that individual took it upon themselves to call the police and state that I was
Yeah.
suicidal when I was
And
not.
then
And
the police turned up.
They
Mm,
turned
yeah.
up. They turned up in style. They
Yes.
turned. They
Well,
showed. They just popped up. So basically, it's a little bit. You have. There's a little bit of explaining to do, but um, they my apartment there had
oh,
previously. Oh, did I
oh
lose you?
no, no.
You there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you hear me? Because I
No,
was
I
just
couldn't
looking
hear
at
you. You were a spinning wheel.
you was a spinning reel as well. I was like, oh
Okay.
no.
All right, so I'll go back. So
Sorry. Sorry.
basically, so yeah, so basically they showed up, and in my apartment there was a former recording studio. So there was a glass window between my bedroom and the where the studio would have been, the soundproof
Mhm.
room. And because that person had shown up at my apartment, the one I was arguing with, I closed
Yep.
the door, locked it, came upstairs, locked it, went into my bedroom, closed the latch. It was a heavy duty door. I closed the latch, locked it, put on music
Mhm.
so I couldn't hear them ringing the doorbell if they were. And the next thing I know, I turn around and I see two officers standing in the window inside my
Mm.
apartment. So I'm like, uh, I turned around, I was startled. I said, can I help you? Right. And they said, come with us. They kept repeating, come
Yeah.
with us, but they didn't explain why they were there. There was no, are you, there, they actually did say, are you okay? But I didn't understand why they were even asking, because they didn't.
I can relate to that as well. I can relate to what happened next as well because there's not much for me. I've also found that there's not much compassion with the police as well. They just turn up and there's no real explanation. They just
Yeah,
drag you in and kick your door down, don't they?
they're
Basically.
not, they're not, what I'm coming to realize a lot is they're really not trained for mental health intervention. And there's so many good instances and like case studies in like the US, like in Eugene. I'm not sure exactly
Hmm.
where it is, but it's this community where first responders mental health team goes in first, so that what happened to me, what happened to you, like doesn't happen. And not, I think 9 times out of 10 or 10 on 10, they haven't had to call for backup. So they're able to talk people down. But in my instance, I wasn't even suicidal.
Mm.
But they didn't even try to talk to me. They didn't even try to ask me, they didn't explain their presence. And when you don't have
No.
a warrant, when you're standing in someone's rented property, when they haven't committed a crime, and when they're an upstanding citizen like I was, literally you couldn't find a parking ticket to my name. Um, that person, deserves a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. You can't just make a claim that someone's suicidal without any evidence and then act on it
Mm.
as if it's true without actually speaking to that person, without actually conversing with that person. And no one tried to talk to me. So basically, the next thing that happened was they asked me to come with them. I said no. I ran to the computer to tweet for help. And the next thing I know, an axe comes out and
Yeah.
comes through my bedroom door, and I just jumped. I jumped back.
That must have been fucking scary, petrifying.
You know, like you've seen, the axes are kind of reserved for like Saw movies. They're
Yeah.
not reserved for medic. Like I had, and it's like to me, because the I'm a person, and you have to understand at that period of time, especially, I'm a person, I'm very like, with certain things, I'm very to the book. With certain things, I'm very like easygoing. But one thing that's
Hmm.
always going to be about me is if there's a procedure in place, I'm going to go by
Hmm.
that procedure. So I
Hmm.
assumed that they would abide by that as well, right? Considering they're the police.
Yeah.
But that wasn't what happened. The next thing I'm pretty sure it was the paramedic that axed through the door, because there was only two police that I recall being there, a man and a woman. And yeah, so there was about two paramedics, or maybe three. I'm pretty sure there was only two. I can't really recall. But basically, they came into my room, the paramedics and the police officers, and they engaged me in a little bit of conversation. And then the energy changed, and I'm trained in Taekwondo, so I understood that energy. And they circled me like an animal, and then they attacked.
Yeah.
And there was no talking. There was no like, we got a call, you're supposedly suicidal, are you okay? There was none of that. And it should also be noted, I was standing in a bra and a skirt when all this was
Mm.
happening. So
It's not very considerate at all.
it's
It's it is it's
it's
disgusting, really.
it's absurdity. You know,
Mm.
and so hold on, my throat's getting a bit dry from talking. Mm. So yeah, so they there was a fight, you know, and then they, so obviously, you know, they subdued me.
Hmm.
They put me down to a board. And honestly, Michelle, I don't know what it was, but when they had me down on the ground, I'm convinced they used something on me, because I
Yeah, yes.
screamed like I had
Yeah.
never screamed before. And I was like, what is this? Like, I can't
Mm.
even explain what the sensation was. And then they strapped me down
Most
to the,
likely it was most likely it was more of those injections. Mm.
I don't know. I don't remember being injected with anything, but I really can't say. There was something that, there
Mm.
was some sort of technology, something was used. And
Mm.
yeah, I ended up being carried out of my apartment. You know, there was a bit of a crowd out on the street. It looked like Pleasantville interrupted. That's the only way I can explain it. It was bizarre. And then I saw the ambulance. And that's when I calmed down a little bit, because to me, I didn't think they were real police, because they didn't present their badges. They didn't say, hi, I'm so, like, I also didn't have very much experience interacting with the police, because I didn't, wasn't really a troublesome, you know, individual. So you know, I didn't have any legal issues up until this point. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'm being attacked by them in my home. So
Mm.
I honestly, because they weren't following any type of procedure, I didn't think they were real. I thought they were in costume. And my human rights brain
Mhm.
is saying, okay, someone who doesn't like you is about to kidnap you. That's what's happening, because the axe, the whole thing, right? They're not. So once I saw the ambulance, I calmed down, because at least they were real. You know, that says to me, okay, you know, in this instance, they are who they say they are. So that at least there's something I can take from this and understand. I was put in
Mm.
the back of the ambulance, and then I said to the officer, I said, where are you taking me? And then that's when I got my explanation. And he said, the hospital, someone called and said that you were suicidal. And then he just went to typing on his phone. So
Yeah, new
that's,
BlackBerry.
yeah, on his Blackberry, exactly. So you've been reading. So yeah, so that's kind of like my story, I'd say. That's the beginning of it. You know, that's the big summary. But um, yeah, that's kind of, and then a lot of institutionalization followed after.
I
Some,
mean, and also he was homeless for a lot before as well. I mean, I can relate to
yeah,
all of this.
yeah, no,
Um,
like, it wasn't, I was about to say that too. It wasn't, I was homeless for like, on two different occasions, for like months at a time.
mhm.
It was not fun in both Toronto and New York. It was really not, it was very heartbreaking experience. And, you know, there was nothing that you would have thought that there was nothing about me that would indicate that any of this would happen in my life path. Not that there's, but that's what I also want for people to understand is
Yeah,
anything,
exactly. Yeah, you can.
like nobody is immune from having something occur to them. No one, you know, like
Yeah.
there's so many different things that can happen. And, you know, I remember I was speaking to someone, and, you know, I was talking about, you know, I was telling him not to burn out, right? He was working very hard, and I said, don't burn out. He says, well, not everybody burns out. I was like, well, that's an interesting perspective to have. You know, it doesn't happen to everybody, so I'm not going to try and take care of myself, but you do you, you know? So, yeah, it can, this type of stuff, like, look, what happened with me was based on a lie.
Mhm.
You know, it changed the course of my life, and now I'm a mental health advocate, and I'm proud of it. So, yeah, that's pretty much the chunk of it. I then, you know, I definitely, from that time period where I was, you know, awakening and becoming an artist, I transformed into a singer, rapper. I now produce also. That's something really exciting for me. And
You do everything, really. You do so much, everything.
yeah, I try.
But
Well, I mean,
mm,
when you, I feel like when you work alone, or when you're forced to work alone on so much, you just pick up so many skills you end up learning, you know, because you want to be able to do everything on your own. You know, YouTube is a great resource and stuff. So,
mhm.
um, yeah, I love creating. I love creating. I will most of the time I will choose creating over like going out.
Yes,
That's unless it's a really good
100%.
unless it's a really good event. But
On a typical weekend, I'm just either writing or doing videos or, coming up with something creative. I don't really, yeah, I'd rather be on my own.
do you find it therapeutic?
Very, yeah. I'm gonna
Yeah.
turn it round because I find this a bit. I feel
Okay.
it's a bit rude doing this, so I'm
It's
gonna
it's
turn it round.
it's completely up to you.
No, it's because the front camera's blurry and cracked, so I'm gonna have to turn it round. But I'm gonna
Oh,
edit this anyway. Don't worry.
okay.
Tell me what you can say. Tell me if it's clear.
Totally clear. I see you.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, I see you. Yeah, got you. There, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I am good level. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to the turning to like creative thing because when I was locked up in hospital for many years, I just turned to writing and creativity, and that's what it stuck to me. I think people that have been through a lot of pain, as you say, it's you feel in your words suffocated otherwise, and it's just a constant urge to let it out, constantly. I'm gonna be creative forever, and I know you are as well.
yeah, no, for sure. And the thing is, it's like no matter what I'm doing, like let's say during my 9 to 5 or what I'm doing, you
Hmm.
know, anything that I do, I will always, you know, when I'm done and I'm off the clock type of thing,
Hmm.
it's going to be creative. Like I'm going to be indulging in my creativity because, and it's just something I naturally float to. It's not something I try and do, you know. Sometimes though, when when you know you're going through something, you remind yourself that it's important to actually, you know, write a song or to
Hmm.
you know, write in your book or whatever it is. But most of the time I just kind of have this like internal guidance, you know, where it's like I'm floating towards my pen, I'm floating towards my laptop, I'm floating towards my phone, my iPad, you know, it's my paints, you know. So
Hmm.
it's really it's a gift, but it's really it really gives so much to me. Like it my art, you know, it's the way that you can take what's inside you and bring it outside you and then look at it and make sense of it. That is a really beautiful thing, I think. And it's, you know, whenever I meet someone who says they're interested in writing, I get so excited because I just want to, you know, talk to them about all the benefits and why it's so good and
Hmm.
why they'll be great at it, because really everybody's got their own voice and it just needs to be harnessed, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just like letting little bits out of yourself for the world to appreciate. It's really beautiful, and it's hard as well. It's hard to write. So, hats off to you as well, because it takes so much to actually just sit there and edit and write and write and write over it. It's hard work.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's also the you know, the tears that go into it. Like for instance, I know you said have
Mm.
my book handy. My book, Do You See You? Like there's 100 or so pages in here, but there's like thousands of tears that went into this book. You know,
Yeah.
that this book really took it took a lot out of me, but it healed me in so many ways, because this book, you know, it's about it's mainly about relationship rape. It's about me
Yeah.
and my relationship with the man who sexually assaulted me in the within the
Mhm.
context of a relationship. And that is a very, 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 very difficult thing to rectify in your brain. Because when you develop feelings for someone, you know, and without realizing that they are your perpetrator, and then
Hmm.
you end up entangled with this person for quite some time. um, that's a complicated situation. That's not something that I wish upon anyone. I actually don't even, ironically, I don't wish that on any of my worst enemies, but yet one of my worst enemies, it almost happened to in a certain way because I was involved with him. But yeah, no, I really wouldn't wish that situation on anyone, because it's something that you spend a very, very, very long time uh unraveling, making sense of, putting in a lot of effort, doing things that you don't necessarily understand, also that one day it can make sense, right?
Yeah,
um
I can
and
relate to that. Yeah, I can relate to that. Not with, like a boyfriend, but in the sense of, the people that were supposed to be, in inverted commas, looking after me, obviously in hospital, were sexually abusive,
yeah,
and there was psychological torture and stuff. I won't go into explicit detail on this video, but that's what my memoir is about. It's almost finished, and I can relate to the fact that it is like cathartic, really, writing it down. But it's a bit torturous having
yeah,
to write it, because you're having to relive it. You
yeah,
have to relive the trauma as well. But it's metaphorically and physically. It's like shutting that page of my life, and I just know that once it's finished, my life will be different.
yeah.
Um, and you've said that, as well, like your life changed once you accepted and reality and moved on.
Yeah, that's huge. Oh my God, acceptance is huge. Like there's, because denial is a powerful drug. Denial is a very, very, very powerful and comforting drug.
Yeah.
But when you actually are, when I recalled the memory of the rape, I knew with certainty I had no choice but to face it, because it had been forgotten. And I was like, how is it possible to have even forgotten something so
Hmm.
incredibly colossal, right? How can you forget something that really, that how can you forget that? But that's exactly how it's designed in certain ways, you know, for if they're lucky. And he got lucky
It's
because
just,
I, you know, because and there's certain, I won't get into the details of like this the that specific day, but there's certain details to that. It's also, it is in my book, but there's certain details to, like, you know, why I may have forgotten also that might be pertinent. Um, but
it's a lot of the time it is the brain's response as well,
yeah,
because
no,
if it's
I'm learning that. I've definitely learned that. I have a great book. You may have read it. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. Have you read it?
no, not
Oh
yet.
my God,
But
great book. Great book. It explains, it goes into a lot of detail. I haven't gotten very far into it, to be honest, but every time I open it, it's like, oh, and then I'm just highlighting, rereading, because they basically explain the brain, like a PTSD brain. And
okay.
and it's really, reading that book is what really kind of solidified for me that it was a normal reaction to actually forget. That up until I read that book, I didn't, it's not that I didn't think it was normal, it's that I really couldn't, I thought it was so divergent from anything else. You know, I thought it just really, really, really made absolutely no sense. No one would be able to understand how I forgot. How would they ever, like, how would I ever explain to someone how this happened, you know? And then it's X amount of
Well,
years later, and this, yeah,
I can relate to it. So yeah.
so many people, right? And then, but you feel so alone when, you know, things, when you don't understand at the beginning, when you're going through trauma, when you're in an abusive relationship, you know, when you're in the thick of something, it's
Mm.
the the narcissist, you know, whoever is trying to hold you in a certain place and control you, your abuser is almost banking on you forgetting the
Mm.
bad, you know, and just remembering the good, because they want to be able to do both, right? They want to be able to, that's how they do it. So yeah, but I can completely relate to what you were saying about, you know, writing the book, because you know, do you see you, this book, my first book, hold it up again,
Hmm.
it it really it doesn't go into full detail about um, my hospital experience. That's the next book, which I'm working on right now as well. I'm not near finished in my opinion, unless for some reason I write like a, you know, like a train on caffeine, you know, like unless I write like an absurd amount in a short period of time, I don't see it coming out for a couple of months at least. But it's difficult to talk about the hospital. It's very you know, institute, but it's necessary. And
Hmm.
it's not something I'm going to avoid just because it's difficult,
Good.
you know, because um, there are so many people who, you know, who go through it. There's so many people in the hospital right now who shouldn't be. There's so many people, even if they should be, are being abused, you know, for no
Yeah.
good reason. The worse off the patient, sometimes the worse the abuse, you know, in certain ways, because they can get away with it. It's just,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really,
you made a good point when you said a lot of people just want to talk about, hashtag mental health, but they don't want to talk about the trauma, but
no.
that is the interlinked, so it's.
And that's also the essence of psychiatry, because
Hmm.
they're like, here's the drugs, now you'll be under control, but let's not talk about how you were raped, let's not talk about how this happened to you as a child, let's not talk about, you know, the
Let's not talk
bullying,
about
that
any of the
this,
reasons,
let's not
just
talk
talk.
about why you're here, let's
Yeah.
not talk about what brought you here in reality. We're not going to get into
Mm-mm.
that, but we are going to give you pills, and we hope you're going to take them, you know, and take them for a long time, you know. But like, I don't know about in the UK, but in Canada, they didn't
Mhm.
have therapists present in the psych ward. They did on like on one occasion. They asked me if I wanted to speak to someone, and it was related to some sort of study. So I said no. But in Canada, they didn't have a therapist at the psych wards I was at.
Yeah, here, yeah. I mean, as a child, I was actually, forced ECG as well, which might sound a bit shocking, but obviously, you've had forced injections and all sorts. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, it's what goes on in these places is corrupt, and
Yeah,
they are money making schemes.
yeah,
Um, and I've said this to a lot of, the people that I know. I said, I'm not going to say every single member of staff in, UK mental hospitals is bad, because they're not. Because I know some good nurses, but every single place that I've been in, I mean, I was locked up. Um, I was bullied quite heavily at school because I'm autistic and I'm gay, and that was just literally all that a kid needs, to make you stand out. Um, the bullying was bad, and I started self harming, and I ended up in a mental unit, but I ended up staying there for years and years
yeah,
and years, and it kind of was a scandal, um, because there wasn't really a reason for me to be there. I said,
yeah,
from yeah, I was cutting myself, yeah, I was talking about hurting myself and suicidal, I was kicking out and attacking staff, but as you say, they don't go into the truth.
no,
Yeah, I was assaulting staff, but why? Because the things that they were doing to me weren't great, but they
yeah.
never wrote that down in the notes.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make the notes. And the notes are very often. I've seen my notes a couple of times, and the notes are very often lies. And
Mm.
one of the things that's also very heartbreaking about the notes is like, I've literally been diagnosed with mental health issues that they never even told me I supposedly had. Meaning, like, the
Yeah,
doctor would be like, "Oh, she has this." They write this down in the notes, and then all of a sudden,
yeah.
up with access to records, I end up seeing
No,
that
it's
the doctor that I deal with didn't even tell me to my face, didn't even have the courtesy to tell me. Can you imagine that happening to a physical ailment? Can you imagine going into a doctor's office and being like, what's wrong with me? And the doctor's like, you know, and, oh, you're totally fine. You know, you got this. But like, imagine that. That would be absurd. But
wouldn't be allowed, would it? But mental health is completely different.
it's
Mm.
they the way that they get away with mistreating people in when they basically when you enter enter the mental health system, based on, especially if you've been, received a self-harm claim against your name,
Mm.
your rights go up in flames. Your rights are just
Yeah,
incinerated.
you talk about the Section 19, or Article 19, should I say, and all the freedom stuff. I mean, when I was in hospital, you got no rights.
No.
Same, like you said, smiling and having a laugh is, a privilege. Um, Literally, it was draconian. I mean, you had to be up at a certain time. It was like a prison. And to be honest, I've been in jail, and you get so much more freedom in jail. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
because everything's misinterpreted in a mental hospital. Like, you might do a drawing, it's like, right, that's a threat or something, right? It's you, everything's censored. The newspapers, they used to cut out certain things. So that's just control. Everything is just control. At
Yeah.
least, don't get me wrong, in prison you can't physically leave, but at least you can have a TV in your cell. Um, you can do more because they don't look through every single thing with a mental health glaze on it.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to the main difference, I think, like in my opinion, from my perspective, it's like in prison, it's a physical place, right? And
Mm.
it's certain things are clearer, but in the
Mm.
mental health ward, they get to your mind. Like
Yes.
and those drugs are powerful. And
Hmm.
not only that, but they, like, for instance, a code white. I don't know how many code whites I've had. I want to assume, I'll probably assume about 17. That's, but, and when I tell you I didn't
That's
deserve
shocking.
one of them, I
Mm.
didn't deserve one of them. I wasn't violent. I wasn't, which is what they're supposed to be reserved for. And I was
Hmm.
actually threatened by a nurse to have a code white, um,
It's all
because
control, isn't it?
I
Like,
was wearing the wrong sweatpants,
yeah.
because I was wearing my own black sweatpants instead of that are comfortable versus the scratchy hospital ones they had. One of the orderlies had given me my own sweatpants, and one of the bitter nurses had noticed, and she's like, "If you don't change the sweatpants right now, I'm code whiting you." This is when I was in the highest intensity unit. I was like, "Well, this is a no-brainer. I'll change into your dumb sweatpants." But like, what is the big deal? Why not let? It's a freezing cold, sterile environment. It was a very traumatizing place. That particular unit was the high security unit that they had in that hospital. They had me there for a good 6 weeks being monitored. And
Mm.
they're trying different drugs on you at rapid paces, and they're expecting you to, even though they know it's experimentation, they're making you feel
It is.
crazy for going through things. And I even had a doctor tell me not to tell him about the side effects. He's told me straight up, he said, "And I don't want to hear about any side effects." So I wrote a song called Side Effects. And now everybody can hear about them. But no, it was very traumatizing. And for that particular instance where he told me not to talk about the side effects, they were changing up my meds like every day,
Hmm.
for a period of like a week. And
Hmm.
I honestly, I remember one of them, and one of them made me feel like, the movie Transformers.
Yeah.
I literally was in my hospital room going like, like I'm like, nope, switch it. Like, it's not working. I don't feel normal. But that's the thing that people don't understand is, they're you're going through this. You're being doped up on very
Mm.
powerful mental drugs, and certain ones are going to have an adverse effect, and certain ones are going to be fine. Like risperidone, the very first drug they ever put me on,
That
made me feel like
that knocked that knocked me out. I've been on
it,
risperidone. It literally knocked me out. I didn't get up
it
for about 2 days.
it made me feel like I was haunted. It made me feel like I was haunted. Like, no joke. I thought that they brought up spirits, So um it's just it's very upsetting, because like what breaks my heart is, you know, I had PTSD going in, so this whole thing, just completely discombobulated and messed with that entire, you know, my mind, because I had like, obviously I have post-traumatic stress disorder. So, you know, you're putting me into an exceptionally traumatic situation. Like it's going to give anyone trauma, you know? So obviously it's going to play on my previous trauma as well. Um, but yeah, I wanted to ask you actually, like you said that you were there as a kid for years.
Yeah, many, many
That,
years. I've been in that many different units. I mean, it's ridiculous. So at 12 years old, I was locked up. I was in one unit for 5 years. I shouldn't have been there. It's, Roycroft Clinic abuse scandal. But, this goes on all the time, to be honest. You get locked up. In the UK, you get locked up in a mental hospital, if you're lucky, and, you get forgotten about because
yeah.
it's a lot of red tape. Because, I mean, I've got a good friend who's been in a unit for 4 years. She did
Hmm.
attempt suicide, but I've actually spoken to the people there because I go there regularly to visit. But they said, oh, we're just waiting for supported accommodation available. But there's nowhere, and we can't, just build something
Yeah.
like that.
That's a
And it's like,
loophole
well,
that can be avoided.
that is a loophole. Like, yeah, it's not fair because then you've got all these people just locked up for decades. I mean, there's so much literature on it. Um, and unfortunately, the other stuff. I mean, I'll say this briefly because I'm very passionate about SIM. Um, I know you're in Canada, but here in the UK, it's becoming illegal to be suicidal in the sense of if, let's say, you have a certain amount of suicide attempts, or you ring, or you end up in A&E or ER a certain number of times, you get like given a restriction, and it's called SIM.
Oh my
Serenity,
God.
so no,
That's
Serenity
absurd.
Integrated. It's evil, isn't it? Serenity Integrated Mentoring. There's a huge petition to stop it. I think it's up to like nearly 250,000. So it basically criminalises people because there was a 19-year-old woman from Manchester, and she basically was on the train tracks, and she was threatening to jump, unfortunately, and she got put in prison for that. Yeah.
Wow. Um,
I know, it's
yeah,
crazy. It's crazy
this,
bad. It's
this is,
getting worse.
well,
It's
that's,
I feel it
yeah.
is getting worse.
Well,
Um,
it's the, you
with
know, the same concept of the way that like the police didn't even try to talk to me and they
yeah,
just kind of went in for attack. Um,
yeah, it's the
is
same here. I mean,
it's
there's
the
not much
same
compassion.
mentality, you know, that
Yeah,
it's really, it's negligent. And what's so interesting is,
yeah,
you know, when COVID hit, everybody, you know, saw their human rights, their rights to mobility at least restricted, right? Everyone
mm,
was all of a sudden, you know, the whole world like shut down, borders shut down, you know, you weren't able to leave your home at certain times. I had in Quebec, in my province in Canada, we had a curfew. We had a, yeah,
okay.
we had a curfew a bunch of times, and it it was just not. They didn't decide that it was unlawful, but they pretty much decided that it had been highly contested by a lot of higher ups, and it
Mm,
made they like after further like assessment, it made no sense, right? But yeah, we had a curfew, and you know, it's just the
oh,
way that like in the name of like public health, in the way that like your human rights can be taken away from you based on health. Like there's always this this game of push and pull that's being played, you know, so long as it's for the good of the individual, and so long as it's to save the individual. But at the same time, it's like, but you're criminalizing my well-being. You
mm,
know what I mean? Like you're criminal. You have literally attacked me in my home because I was supposedly suicidal. Like what? But I wasn't even. You know, you were wrong. So you were wrong on both counts. You know, so
it
it's
is.
just
It's
very,
negligent.
it's negligent. It's and the thing, like, I'm very focused on like the solution now. I've come across a lot of very interesting information about you know, I mentioned in Eugene in the United States, like they have that program where, you know, the first responders go out, a team of mental health first responders go out, and they've like, I don't think they've ever even had to call for police backup, or
Hmm.
very minimally they've had to call for police backup. So, you know, there's other ways to go about this. It doesn't have to be this way. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on the solutions now. I'm focused on finding the solutions. I've been doing some research. I've been doing some research into how it can be changed in at least, you know, in my province or in my city. And
Hmm.
yeah, and just I hope that, you know, more and more, I hope that police departments co-opt to have those mental health first responders go out, because it can allow them to do their job more, you know, the things that they're required to do more more fully, right? The things that we
Yeah.
need them to do more fully, because there's, look, there is a lot of stuff that they need to be doing instead of dealing with something that's going to go awry, right? It's just going to make for a worse situation. So um yeah, it was very traumatizing, but I think, you know, I'm still there, there's still a lot of trauma from that, but I overcome it, I think, with every day, and with by exposing myself to information, and just, you know, by writing, by through my raps, through my, you know, my painting, like it's, and through talking, you know, talking to someone, talking to friends, you know, getting it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest solution, I think, is the real issue is the all the rise of the far right. Because I've
Mm.
noticed over the past 30, well, not 30 years, but obviously over the past 15 or 20 years, it has got worse. And I'm sorry to be negative, but it is. It's in the sense of stigma. Um, in certain aspects, it's getting better. Like, you know, people are saying, oh, you know, it's good, you know, it's fine to have mental health and you can talk about it, etc. But like you said, when it actually comes down to the reasons why, people don't want to know. Because when I, even my own doctor, when I was, you know, when I tried to speak in the past, and I said, look,
Wait,
I've got
Michelle, I can't really
anxiety.
hear you. I think you might be blocking the mic.
Hello?
Yes, better.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. When I was speaking to my doctor in the past about the reasons, um, you know, they said, oh, you know, I'm not professional enough to deal with that.
You know what? The way that I'm assuming when you say doctor, you mean psychiatrist?
A counselor.
Oh, counselor. Okay, okay. Um, you know, I think that people really, really underestimate the mental health community. I think that, you know, they don't realize that, like, prior to being a member of the mental health community, you're a member of the uh, everyday community, let's say, right? Not the
Mm,
non-mental health community. You were part of, and prior to entering that, you had certain skill sets, you had certain interests, you had, you know, whatever, you had a whole life. And then you enter the mental health community, and people are, all of a sudden, they associate you so much with those labels, right?
yeah,
Like, I remember when I was labeled bipolar, and I was upset because you know, I was very upset for a lot of reasons, but I really understood what it meant. And I knew that I was not that, right? And I also knew that I wasn't suicidal. So, and they also diagnosed me within 20 minutes of meeting me. So, you know, which, like, after I just been beat up by police in my home, you know, and they didn't even explain why they were there. So, you know, the whole thing was just so absurd. It, I knew it was real, but it felt like it couldn't possibly be. Um, and I just think that, you know, the full weight of what that label meant hit me right away. I remember sitting in that room. It's like she hurled from the other end of the room bipolar, and I was like, you know, I all the way back. So I really, you know, but over time, like I was just like, I don't care. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. Label me with whatever you want. I don't care, because you didn't stop there. That was just your first one. You know, like you guys kept going, but that was the only one that you kept going with that seemed to stick pretty well. So you kept going with it, you know, but there was only one occasion where they even one or two occasions where they even acknowledged my PTSD. They didn't even, the word PTSD was never uttered. You know, there was like, it was like as if, nope, there was no trauma. There was no trauma before she ended up in this situation. This is her genetics. This is her, you know, her mind. It is always going to be this way. And she is always going to, you know, have these types of thoughts. But it's like, dude, I don't even have these types of thoughts to begin with. You're not listening to me. And then at a certain point, I just started having fun with it. You know, once I realized I was stuck in the system, I was just like, all right, I'm here. Like, you know, I kind of leaned into the role, and I played, you know, I played the role pretty well when I did. But you know, I got lost in it. I literally lost my mind. Like, I got lost in it, and that's what was scary. But
I,
when I was able to
I
claw
can relate.
back,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
I
And when
can
I was
relate in that sense with I've been diagnosed with that much. I mean, they've said I'm autistic. They've said that I've got social anxiety. They've said that I've got PTSD. They said that I've got personality disorder. Which now, when I was diagnosed with that, my God, no professional looked at me the same again. And now I don't mention it because there's so much stigma attached to that.
yeah,
Um, and you know, even bipolar as well, because I've got another good friend who's got that label, and people think, oh, bipolar people are violent, very dangerous people, and that's just not the case. You know, everyone's individual, and no, that's just no, that isn't right.
yeah, no, it's not. They have a lot of power in that field in psychiatry, and it's unchecked power. And unchecked power in any area of life will always be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And where there's power, it will always be corrupted. And in the case of psychiatric wards, there needs to be a major reckoning and change, because it's one of the most silent issues that can think of, because you know they're literally they're locked up, they're locked up in plain sight in hospitals across the world, and they're being abused, and that's the
Yeah.
reality of it. You know, you can be down the hall visiting your relative in a totally calm ward, and then right on the other side of the door at the end of the hallway there's a complete, you know, someone's living their living nightmare. So you know, it really shouldn't be like that. Like, people who are struggling mentally deserve the exact same amount of rights and respect that anyone struggling physically, you know, has earned. And in
Exactly.
terms
Yeah.
of
Totally. Yeah.
in terms of, like, you know, your mental health, your mental health, it needs to be they need to recognize that mental health is a part, your mind is a part of the body, and it cannot be separated. So we can't keep treating the mental health field in medicine as an enigma or a mystery. You know, oh, we don't know, figure it out. If you don't know, figure it out. Like, I'm going to give you an exam, I'm going to give you one question, psychiatrists, all of y'all, you know, grab a pen, grab a pencil, you know, do whatever, grab a timer. You got 3 hours, figure it out. Because there's no excuse. Every single person on this planet, every animal, everyone has a mind. You know what I mean? Figure out how it works, figure out how to heal it without trauma, without further traumatizing the patient. It's not rocket science. It's clearly, you know, like, compassion should be it shouldn't be a rarity in there. Like, I can count on one hand, really probably on two fingers, the amount of staff who were compassionate to me in my entire mental health journey. You know, and that should be the first thing they learn. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's better in a prison. It really is. Over here, it's better in prison because you know, like you've said, they just talk about you behind your back in the mental hospital. It's like, oh, so, and there's no actually sitting down, and there's no treatment. Nothing. It's just literally, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And if you don't like it, you'll be injected. Or if you don't like it, you'll be hit.
Yeah.
But in prison, yeah, I'm not going to snitch, but yeah, there's a lot of yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to. But I totally I totally, you know, I get it. Look, like, there's no reason why you know, there's some of the horrifying things that I've been through. There's no explanation for it besides for exploitation. And
Yeah, money
they
making as well.
well, yeah, and it's money making pharmaceutical wise, of course.
Yeah.
And they're also the pharmaceutical thing can't really be discounted because it's kind of the main thing for psychiatry. You know, it's the
Mhm.
first thing. It's the first thing you go in and they're like, "Here's pills," and you're like, "What the hell is going on? Like, what do you mean, here's
Well,
pills?" Like,
it's cheaper to give. It's the same here. They've stopped all the a lot of the therapies and stuff, like CBT and DBT and stuff. They've stopped a lot of that, and now they're just giving out pills because it's cheaper to give out pills than actually do treatment.
and yeah, and the thing is, and I'm not saying that pills can't help. I'm not saying that they don't have their place, but what I am saying is that they cannot be the sole solution. That is not how
No,
you solve a mental health problem. You know, and there's you
you need
know,
to get to the source of it. Yeah,
yeah, you 100%, you need to get to the root of the issue, and that's most times, say 9 on 10, probably trauma. And
yeah,
you look, you know, you turn on the news, like you don't even have to have a personal trauma to understand that people are going through something, you know, like everyone is going through something. Everyone is fighting their own personal wars, but then we've got the literal wars of the world, and that's enough to make people, you know, want to not be here, want to be depressed, or not want to, but be depressed. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. And the,
hmm
you know, for empathetic people, what goes on in the world really does matter. It really weighs on us. It really affects us. You know, I'm a very politically conscious, I'm a very politically aware, and I'm a human rights centered, you know, person. So when I'm looking through the news, you know, and my social media is all curated to find that type of information, like it can be very upsetting and depressing, of course, but in order to deal with reality, you need to assess reality for what it truly is. And, you know, I'm definitely about being solution focused. And I definitely, you know, want to be a part of making this right because it's just so wrong right now.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. The system is not designed to heal, and it should be. There's no reason why it shouldn't be, and you know, and it's just it's really it's a failure on behalf of the medical field, and it's a failure on behalf of, unfortunately, our governments as well and our officials, that this is just going on unnoticed, and you know, people are not addressing this issue, but it's a
Well,
serious issue.
yeah, it's not unnoticed. People know, but they just turn a blind eye to it, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. They definitely turned a blind eye to it. And you know, when you come out of it, certain people are just, they don't even want to hear about it. And but you
Mm,
know what? They don't want to hear it straight from your mouth. They're not going to ask you about it, but they will watch your stuff. They will watch your stories. They will, you know, be on your social media. They will check up on you quite frequently.
yep.
But those are the same people who never asked you, "Are you okay?" even after you emerged from that situation, you know? So it's heartbreaking because you lose a lot. I lost a lot of people. I lost a lot of my reputation just went, you know, like down the river. But you know, I rebuilt in a way that was authentic to me and authentic to my story, because I never want to have to um, lie. I never, you know, when I was a kid, I remember seeing a TV show. I think it was Oprah, and someone was saying on it. They said, "If you never lie, you never have to remember anything that you said." And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And from that day
Mm,
forward, I never fibbed. I never anything. You know, I went with the 100, not 100% truth, but like I went with the truth all the way through. You know, if I didn't want to tell, like giving a guy who's creepy the wrong name, you know, your wrong name, that's an okay lie. But, you know, lying about your life, or lying about where you've been, or lying about, you know, any type of real serious thing, is just not, it's not okay. And I was actually on that subject of of lying. You know, this book is a hashtag Me Too book. This book is a book. It's focused on me being sexually assaulted. And, you know, the thing about it that I find very interesting is those who those who know who the perpetrator is, but still support him. I find that fascinating because I'm a highly intelligent woman, in my opinion.
Yes, you are.
You know, I own that. I don't think there's ever been a time in history where a woman has come forward against a man and said he raped me, and that's been a good thing for her. You know, I don't think that's ever been a good thing. I think it's something that women do and people do because they feel they must, because otherwise they feel like they're suffocating, and also they feel like they have a duty so that other people are not going to be hurt. But you know, I think that you know, I said to myself the other day, I had this moment where I said out loud, and I kind of cried a little bit. I was like, I'm smart. I'm like, I'm really smart. And I hadn't kind of said that to myself in a long time. And then I was like, you know, if if it wasn't true, I wouldn't have written the book. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't be talking about it. If it wasn't true,
Exactly, yeah.
you know, like, and there's so many people out there, there's so many victims of so many things, and people try and pretend like it's, you know, oh, that's attention seeking, oh, that person is victim mindset, oh, that, no, it's not that. It's expression, it's healing.
Yeah, exactly,
it's the
yeah.
way I heal, but not only that I heal, I know other people heal from me talking as well. So that's, like I said, you know, that's why I do it. And you know,
Good.
I think that it's a beautiful cycle when someone can share their story and then someone else in the room can relate, and that helps them in their healing. That is the most beautiful thing in the world. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a healer, right? Like I told you at the beginning, I wanted to be a doctor. That was because that was the only way I knew how to heal. But then I learned that there's other ways to heal, and I moved into that direction. So you know, the psych ward system, the mental health system needs to get on board with this whole healing thing that they can't figure out, because it's really great. You know, you feel a lot better towards the ends of the, you know, once you go down that path, and people deserve it. They deserve to heal. They deserve to be able to go to a place, go to the hospital, and just like someone gets a cast for their broken knee or their broken arm, you know, they should be able to get proper treatment for their minds as well.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And you're an amazing individual, to be honest. You know, you do everything, and you know you have had a tragic time. You know, you're still here, and it's just I just find all these. I actually like how I get strength from people like you, and it's all healing, you know.
Yeah. No, it's and that's what's so. I started a website called Spotlight Healing, and I actually told the story of a friend of mine's brother, um, and he tragically lost his life to suicide last year. And I told his story. His name is Abby, and I told his story because I was an insider to it while he was going through. He was in and out of the psych ward system a little bit because he had a couple suicide attempts, and in the end, he attempted, and he actually did it. And you know, it's just, it was so final when that happened. You know, it was the first of all, a whole community was devastated. Like, it hit the lot. He was such an incredible individual that the loss of him was just, you know, it was really, really, really felt. But one of the things on my end, that really hit me when he took his life, I realized the finality of it, and I realized the finality of suicide, and, you know, the real depths of what it really means. And I was angry. I grew very angry, because the thing about me is, you know, when the claim was made that I was suicidal, I was not. So what that means is I had never really thought about suicide, right? I never thought about it as an option for me. I had never thought about it as a concept, really. Like, I had never really given it much thought because it didn't directly affect my life. It wasn't something going through my mind. And when he passed away and I realized what that meant, I realized a few things, but the main thing I realized was, wow, all of these people supposedly think that I was suicidal. Old friends, old people, acquaintances, all these old people I used to know. And no one reached out to see if I was okay. No one reached, and I could have supposedly died in their minds, right? Because they don't know that it wasn't true. Only I know. I'm the only, me and the people who orchestrated this are the only people who know for the certainty that it wasn't true. We're the only people, right? Everyone else is either my word against other people's, you know, against whatever. But they don't know that. And I could have supposedly died in their eyes. And that is a very, that was a very hard pill to swallow, not to be ironic, but it was. It was, you know, it told me a lot about the people I used to know.
Well, yeah, exactly. You found out who your real friends are, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I still speak to my one of my closest friends from like 10 years ago. And she's one of the only people that I still speak to from that before that time. Other than her, everyone else is, you know, I've moved on. You know what I mean? I have, it's 2000, it's 10 years later. You know, it's 10 years later. I rebuilt. I made a new life.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Quality, not quantity.
Oh, 100%. Oh my God. Definitely quality over quantity when it comes to friends, when it comes to, you know, people in your life, quality over quantity. I definitely agree with that for sure. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of fakeness in the world. You know what I mean? Like people like, oh, you know, I've got 100 friends or I've got 80 friends or whatever. But I can say I've got probably about 4 or maybe even 3, 4.
Yeah, no,
You know?
I'd say I've got like my close inner circle, and then I've got like other people that I speak to and I really care for, but I don't really talk to very often, you know. But even that whole group and list of people is probably less than 10, you know, like altogether. And I think that's, you know, like, look, after you've been through the type of things that we've been through, also, it becomes very difficult to trust people. It becomes very difficult to create relationships. And then not only that, so it becomes difficult to trust, but there's also a lot of people that aren't deserving of your trust. And you find, you know, and you know, I've had relationships or friendships where I've had to end them quite recently, over the past year and a half, because there was no trust, you know, there was no trust, or there was, you know, toxicity or whatever. But I would, you know, these were some key people in my life, but I would much rather be on my own, and be in my own company and be in the company of people who are authentic than, you know.
I've learned that as well. You know, when I first came out of the institutions, all I wanted to do was just surround myself with people. It don't matter who it was, I just wanted company. And a lot of those people were abusive, a lot of those people did not have my best interests. But I just put up with it because I just wanted to be liked. I wanted to be around, but I realised that I deserve, you know, my self-worth is worth more than, you know, just having loads of people, you know, around, you know.
Yeah, I think also being alone will really strengthen your confidence in a lot of ways, because then you can realize that you can do so many things, and you put in the effort and time to do them when you're alone. I think that being alone, I love my solitude. I definitely love my solitude, but I also love my people, you know, like my most, the people that are dearest to my heart. So you know, I like to I like to keep those people close, but you know, I definitely indulge in my alone time a lot, and I need that a
Yeah,
lot for my heal. I need that a lot for my healing, for sure. I
same. I
like
mean,
my
I
alone
don't
time.
think I could ever live with anybody now. I don't think so. I just love my own time, you know. Just walk about and just think about what I'm gonna do. Just even just chat to myself, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Yeah, definitely. It's I think about that sometimes, maybe one day, but right now I'm good. You know, like I like my own company. I like my own having my own things around. Like my apartment is my studio. You know,
Yes.
it's entirely situated to it's designed for me to create. So that's what I do here all the time.
I'll say this as well before I go, because I think I'm gonna do another one of these, by the way,
Mhm.
because um, I'm gonna get a proper standard next time because this literally is blurry on this.
Okay, no worries.
So I think um, I don't know, I might just upload your video,
Okay.
because mine's not good enough. But yeah, I'll get a new phone and we can do it again. We can just do a lot of these because you know there's a lot of lots to discuss.
Yeah, for
Lots to
sure.
say. I talk about my dad in terms of the PTSD thing because I just think it's awful that you know he's got a PTSD diagnosis as well, and you know he's in his 60s and he doesn't get any help. Like I'm his only real support, you know. And it's a case of he's in the.
I can't really hear you too well. You said your dad has PTSD?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is it clear now?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad has PTSD as well, and he was in the army.
Hmm.
So yeah, he didn't get any support, and it's like that just annoys me so much. The fact that you know someone I don't agree with war, but someone actually was a you know soldier, and they can just
Yeah.
be left without anything. It's on basic money, and it's like it's never taken seriously. Like there's supposed to be
Yeah.
so many
No,
pictures about it, and
it's
it's like
really
oh you
not.
know it's not really that serious. You know it's not a life or death situation and stuff like that. It's like well it is. You know take it seriously.
Yeah, no, it's very serious. PTSD is it's wild. It's like taking it's like being in a time warp
Yep.
constantly, you know, and but your body is still physically in the room that you were actually in. You know, you're still physically partaking in a conversation, you're still taking,
Hmm.
you know, you're working, you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, but your mind is completely somewhere else. But then there, you know, everybody's got a different manifestation PTSD. Mine happens
Hmm.
to be very heavy on the flashbacks.
Yep.
And sometimes the night terrors are pretty big
Yes.
too. I go through
I was
phases
about to
with
go on
those.
to that. Yeah, I can
Yeah, no,
relate to
for
the
sure.
nightmares and the night terrors because, you know, sometimes I don't know, like sometimes I just wake up and it's like, I don't know, like I just think it's so vivid, you know what I mean? Like the stuff
Yeah,
that did the stuff to me. And it's like, I don't know, I like to validate it because believe it or not, I know some of the people's names. So I sometimes used to go on Facebook and like Google them. It's like that person did exist, that did happen. And then I close it down, I feel better for validating that it happened. Like, yeah,
yeah,
because otherwise, I think, oh no, it didn't happen. It's not real.
yeah. No, it's the night terrors are they're when I have bouts of night terrors, I don't I don't enjoy them at all. Like I mean, they're
No.
like I can wake up screaming, you know, like they go deep, they go very deep into the subconscious. Sometimes I've had certain night terrors that go on, they feel like they're movies, like epically long movies, you know, that are
Hmm.
3 hours long, and I remember every single detail when I wake up, and I can recall being in every single room in the dream. But they're very vivid, they're very, you know, they're very real, and they're look, dreaming, it's a part of life, like, you know, and it makes you, in certain ways, it can make you want to avoid sleep, right? Because when you're going through those
Never,
periods, you're
not
like,
for me.
well, it depends. It really, really depends. But like when I'm going through a period with like really bad night terrors, like I often
Mm,
will try and delay until I can finally, you know, be like, okay, fine, I'll go to sleep, you know?
yeah,
But yeah, no, they're very real. Nothing is done about them. You know, it's just like, okay, so you go to sleep, you have a night terror and you wake up, you know, but PTSD is not, like you said, you know, with your dad. It's just
mm,
not taken as seriously as it should be. You know, and I was actually on the phone with someone the other day, and he was talking. It was a guy, and it was a like I don't want to reveal too much about it, but basically, like he was talking. We were talking about my past relationships or my past, you know, situations with men. And he said to me, he goes, "It sounds like you have relationship PTSD. It sounds like you have PTSD." He kept saying it. And I was like, I do have PTSD. Yes, I do have it. And it's not like to me, he was throwing around the word, like, you know how people throw around the word when they like to clean a lot? They're like, oh, you have OCD. You know, they just throw that word around. He was throwing around the word PTSD like that. And I was trying
post-traumatic
to,
growth,
what?
post-traumatic growth.
Yes, love post-traumatic growth. But that's the thing, right? Like, and everybody has different everybody has different experiences, you know, everybody has different traumas. Like no one on this planet is exempt from having, you know, a trauma can affect you in a different way, but like
Mm,
everybody on this planet has something that's traumatic, whether it was, you know, something that happened, it could even be something in passing that they didn't recognize, but years down the line they're like, oh my god, that was so formative for me, you know. There's but not everyone has PTSD, and those who have PTSD do deserve to have the right amount of support, and they
mm-hmm.
don't at this period of time, and they should. And a lot of it is a lot of the work falls on us in the mental health community to demystify, you know, what it means to have PTSD, to demystify what it means to be in the psych ward system, to demystify, you know, all these things, so that once we talk about them, you know, it takes away the uncertainty, it takes away their ability to call it an enigma, a
Yeah,
mystery. You know, they have to actually face it because we're telling them point blank what it is. So I think that the more that people are expressive, the more they use their Article 19, the more that they, you know, share and keep sharing their stories of mental health, the greater off we'll really be.
100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. That is what I definitely think. I fully support. You know, sometimes people end up in situations where they're totally alone when they're healing, and I actually do these things called self interviews where
Mm-hmm.
I write down about 5 questions that I want to ask myself, and then I
Mm,
answer them. I leave space, like about a paragraph space to answer them, like about 5 lines, and then I just answer it. But I do it by hand, I do it by laptop sometimes, and I also do it vocally every now and then. I haven't done it orally. I did it orally the other day, but I hadn't done it orally in like years. I used to do it mainly orally when I needed to work on my speaking again when I was mute. But these self interviews are very, very good for getting in touch with where you're at and for healing yourself and figuring out, you know, how to figure out your next step kind of thing.
yeah, I use well, I keep a diary every day, so
Mm.
I write down what I'm grateful for each night, and it just helps me just to look forward to the next day, definitely. Um,
Yeah, no, for sure. Journaling is huge. Journaling is so important. It's very, very, very healing, and it's super good for you. It's super good for keeping your mind sharp. It's super good for keeping your emotions like in check. And I encourage that practice. I wish I could journal. I don't, but maybe I try to, but it doesn't really work.
it's everyone's different. Like I said, everyone's creative process is very different.
Yeah.
Me, I wake up and even before I do anything, I write down my thoughts or my dreams, or some of it's just stream of consciousness.
Hmm.
And I talk about that so much because it really does help, even if it's absolute nonsense. I just write it all down.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's some of the best writing that you can do is the nonsense, because the nonsense just gets it all out, and then that leaves room for the clarity afterwards, and the more, the clear cut, the concise writing and creating. So you kind of get out and then you just go straight into it. There's a great book. What's it called? The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, I think it is. Yeah. I don't know if you've read that book, but she,
No, I've not, but I've heard it.
yeah,
I've heard all of these books, but I've not read them yet.
yeah, she promotes writing 3 pages every morning called morning pages, where you're
Yeah,
basically
morning
doing
pages.
exactly what you do, and that for that purpose, it's supposed to align you creatively for the rest of the day. So I think that's absolutely great. I think that's why I've always tried to get journaling. I used to journal back in the day, but I don't journal anymore. I journaled a lot when I was in the psych ward, but I actually don't have those notebooks anymore. So they're lost. But I did write down a lot. And I think that just the process of writing really, really helps you remember a lot of things.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So I think that it really benefited me, even though I don't have those notebooks anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Trying to think if there's a question I want to ask you before we go, but we'll definitely do this again. We'll definitely we'll have
I've got a
another.
hell of a lot of questions, definitely, but I'm getting tired now.
Okay.
Definitely want to stop soon now.
Okay,
But
we
yeah,
can
I've got
stop
that many.
whenever
I've
you
got
like.
pages and pages of questions. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna get a new phone in the next few days.
Okay, no worries.
And then, to be honest, I might just upload your video. I'll just cut me out because
Okay.
mine just keeps swapping off. It would be a bit rude, you know what I mean? The focus
No
is on me.
worries, no worries. That's totally fine. Whatever works for you, it's that works for me, and that's probably the best for the video, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever I'm okay to do it again whenever you are ready, and yeah, and I'm also and yeah, that I thank you so much for even having me. I think this has been really great. I feel
No,
like we could
it's
talk.
been interesting.
I felt so comfortable. I was like, we could talk for hours. You know what I mean? Like we really could.
I'd
Um,
like to, but I think this front camera has got a crack in it because, like I said, when
yeah,
I do this, it's clear, but I have
yeah,
to put it and then I can't see you. If you understand what I mean?
yeah. No, I see, I see. I totally get it. No worries. We'll do it
Because I can't,
again.
because that's clear, isn't it?
Yeah, that's clear.
I can't see you though.
Yeah, I know, and that makes for an awkward interview in certain ways.
It does a bit because I can't see your face.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. So do you want to end now, or do you want to ask a question or two and then end, or it's up to you?
I don't know, but what I'm gonna say is, I'm gonna edit all this anyway.
Okay.
But just for the people that are gonna probably watch this back, head over to Arielle's YouTube. I'm gonna put the link in this the description. Watch the documentary link because it just explains everything. Also, I'm gonna put the link to the book as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I could you got a little bit muffled for a second, but I know you said you're going to put the link to the YouTube and for the documentary as well as my book, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank
That's
you,
fine.
Michelle. This has been
So
awesome.
when people watch this back, like I said, if you are talented, if if you're musical, if you're creative, go follow Arielle. She's underrated. She's an absolutely amazing singer and rap, and she's a decent, genuine human being. Like I said, being lovely connected, and I think we're connected for a reason.
Oh, 100%. 100%. We definitely connected for a reason.
I can't remember what just typed in mental health documentary or something like that. Yours came up. It just works.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, I actually only partially hear you because it's a bit muffled, but I definitely. There we go. I think that's better. Yeah, well, I thank you so much, Michelle. I really, all of those kind words, like I really do appreciate it. The fact that my art and my music and my book and, my writing and the documentary, all that resonated for you, that really meant a lot to me. It does mean a lot to me. And I love that you interact with my art that way because, it's really intense. It's really intended for people to interact with. Once it's out there, it's out there. And I really,
did a song called Toxic Bay.
I did do a song called Toxic Bay.
Yes,
I did.
I like that song.
Yeah, it's a good song. It's a good song. I like that song too. I have a new single coming out. Very soon. It's called Sex Ed. So that'll be coming out very soon. It is written and sang and produced by me. So it's going to be my first song that is produced by me that I'm putting out. And I'm super excited about that. It should be coming out very soon. And yeah, if anyone wants to check me out on ariellelondon.com and check out the links that Michelle posts in the description. Really appreciate it.
I've got some tips and I'm going to share with you anyway privately.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go now, people.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate you so much.
It's okay. I'll message you now. Right. Oh.